guys, you're welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, I'll be sewing this corset top. The pattern drafting video is up and the link will be in the comment section. So if you've not seen it, go ahead and watch that video before you come join us on this sewing tutorial video. After drafting out my pattern, I went ahead to place my pattern on my fabric, on my lining and on my stay, and I cut out everything as it is on the pattern paper. I went ahead to also increase the base of my top by 1 inch, which is going to serve as my stitching allowance. My center front is on fold and I have 2 pieces for it. I have the main piece and the lining piece, so I'll be using my fabric as my lining. I'm going to remove my pattern paper and I'll open it up for you guys to see. I'm going to drop the lining piece and work on the main fabric. I'm going to go ahead and place the shiny part, that's the rough part of my stay, on the wrong side of my fabric. I'm going to pin all the way around and then I'm going to use my hot iron to iron the stay on my fabric, so it's going to stick after ironing. For the back, I went ahead to also cut out 4 pieces, 2 pieces for the main fabric and 2 pieces for the lining. I also went ahead to cut out my stay the same way that I did for the main fabric. I'm going to open it up and I'll drop my lining piece and work on the main piece. So just like I did for the front, I'm going to place the shiny part, that is the rough part of my stay, on the wrong side of my fabric, and I'm also going to use my hot iron to hold the stay down. After doing that, guys, this is what I have for the front. I'm done ironing and this is what it looks like. These are the 2 back pieces. Also, I went ahead to iron the stay in place. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out a bias tape. So I went ahead to use this colored fabric to cut out my bias tape. The wideness of the fabric is 1.5 inch, and then I went ahead to fold in 1/4 inch on both ends. You can also do this with your fabric, and if you have a bias tape, you can go ahead and use it. So the length is as long as you want it. I have like 3 or 4 pieces here because I'll be using it to hem the base of my top. So what I'm going to do is to place my bias on the center of my top like this. So because I already ironed my fabric, the center of this fabric is very obvious. So I'm going to place the bias on the fabric like this. I'm creating my boning casing. I'm going to just do 3, so you can decide to do more than 3, but I'll stop at 3. After placing the bias, I'll go ahead and cut out the excess and then I'll sew 2 straight stitches on the bias. So I'm going to sew the 1/4 inch that I folded in. So make sure the space you'll be leaving in your boning casing is wide enough for your boning to pass through. My boning is 1/2 inch, and once I sew on the edge of this bias, what is going to be left for me is 1/2 inch. So I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what I have. You can see the 2 straight lines that we have on each boning casing. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my cups. So I've already gone ahead to cover my cups using my fabric and this colored fabric. So I have a detailed tutorial on how I was able to achieve this. I'll be leaving the link in the comment section. Or in case you don't want to cover your cup like this, you want to use just your fabric to cover your cup, just like you can see on the thumbnail, I'll also leave another detailed tutorial on how to cover your cup using your fabric. So on this end, on my side front, I'm going to go down by 1/2 inch. On the center front also, I'll go down by 1/2 inch. I'm doing this because after sewing, we'll be attaching our lining to the main fabric, so we'll be needing this 1/2 inch to sew the lining and the fabric together. I'll repeat the same thing for the other side. So I'm going to place my cup like this and I will sew all the way around. Before I start sewing, remember we added 1/2 inch to our pattern while we were drafting. The 1/2 inch is what we'll be using to join the cup and the main fabric together. So I'm going to place my tape and I'll mark 1/2 inch all the way around the cup area, and I'll place my cup on the 1/2 inch mark. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew. So remember to leave 1/2 inch before you place your cup, and on the center front also remember to leave 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and sew all the way around like this. So guys, after sewing one of the cup, this is what it looks like. You can see my half an inch allowance on the center and on the side. I'll go ahead and mark the half an inch on the other cup area, and I'll place my cup, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew all the way around. After sewing the cups in place, this is what I have. This is what it looks like on the inside and what it looks like on the outside. I'm going to go ahead and bring my two back piece, and then I'm going to place the back piece on the front piece, right sides facing each other, and I'm going to sew using the allowance that I left. So if you look at the picture on the thumbnail carefully, you see that the waist area is not fitted. So while sewing, remember to just make the waist area a little bit free. So I'm going to sew using my stitching allowance. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. I'll go ahead and I'll also join my lining piece. Everything that I've done for this main piece, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same thing for my lining piece. So I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what I have. This is what my lining piece looks like. The next thing I'll do is to join my main piece and my lining piece together. So I'm going to place my lining piece on my main piece together, right sides facing each other, and I'll go ahead and sew all the way around. So the only place I'll not sew is the base of this top. I'm going to sew everywhere. After sewing the upper part, I'll go ahead and top stitch, and then I'll continue sewing the armhole area and the zip area, and I'll turn inside out. So guys, after sewing, this is what I have. I turned everything inside out through the base of the top. The next thing I'll do is to create the effect on the front part of this top. So I'm going to go ahead and fold my top into two equal halves, just like you can see me doing. So pin if you have to, so that everything sits perfectly. So I'm going to go in by 2 inches. I just did this randomly, okay? So I went in by 2 inches and I just created this slant. I just tried my best to work my way around it. So I went in again. On the part that has the bias tape, I went up by 1.5 inch. So I did my best to like achieve what you can see on the thumbnail, but at the end of the day, I did not like it, so I had to change it. So just try your best to work your way around it. If you want to extend it to the back, you can do that, but I just stopped at the front, okay? But if you want to extend it to the back, it's totally okay. So the next thing I did was to go in with my scissors. I just went ahead to cut this shape that I already have. So guys, after cutting, this is what I have. I didn't really like it. I went in again. I went to make the center a bit sharper than what you can see now. So the next thing I did was to measure around the waist area so that I'll know the amount of bias to cut. So after measuring, what I had was 34 inches, and I went ahead to cut out my bias, the same bias that we used to create our boning casing. Before I hem the base of the top using my bias, I'm going to go ahead and pass my boning through the boning casing. So this is optional. If you don't have a boning, you don't have to do this step. So I'll make sure that my boning is 1 inch or half an inch shorter than my top, because I need to hem the base. After cutting out the bone, I'm going to pass them through the boning casing. So make sure your the space you left for your boning casing is wide enough for your boning to pass through. I've gone ahead to do that. The next thing I'm going to do is to hem the base of my top using my bias. So I'll turn my top to the wrong side, and I'm going to place the bias on the wrong side. And then I'll make sure I follow the shape that I have on the base of this top. I'll sew all the way around. So guys, I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what I have. What I'll do next is to cut out the excess bias on the top, and then I'm going to fold my bias over to the right side. Okay, that way it's going to cover the rough edges that we have on the top. So I'm going to fold it over like this, and I'll follow the same shape just like I did on the wrong side. I'll sew all the way to the end. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew, and this is what I have. So you can see that we've been able to conceal the rough edges and it's hidden inside the bias tape. The next thing I'll do is to go ahead and give it a good press, because the boning is still standing, which is okay. Once you iron it, it's going to stay flat. I'm going to fold my top like this, and the next thing I'll do is to sew my zipper in place. So we left 1 inch for the zipper allowance, so I'll use the 1 inch to sew my zipper in place. I've gone ahead to do that, and this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to go ahead and cut out my sleeves. For the sleeves, I went ahead to fold my fabric into 4 because I want to cut the 2 sleeves together. The side of the sleeves that is facing me is on fold, and the length of my sleeves is 31 inches. The wideness of my sleeves is 14 inches, meaning each sleeve is 28 inches wide. I'm going to go ahead and open up my fabric like this, and I'm going to fold the upper part of the sleeves like this. After folding, I will sew on a straight line, so because we'll be creating a casing for our elastic band to pass through. So make sure the casing you'll be creating is wide enough for your elastic band to pass through. So measure your elastic band and use it to create your elastic casing. I'm going to turn my sleeves to the wrong side, and I'm going to mark 10 inches. So I'll mark 10 inches from the beginning to the end. I'll make sure I use my chalk to indicate the 10 inches mark. After doing that, I'm going to use my elastic band to measure around my wrist like this, and then I'm going to cut out what I have. So I did not add any allowance at all. I'll go ahead and cut out 2 elastic band like this. I'll head over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to place this elastic band on this straight line that I have here, and then I'm going to gather it. So I'll keep sewing and pulling the elastic band, that way it's going to form gathers. For the upper part of the sleeves, in order to know the length of the elastic band you'll be needing, go ahead and measure around your armhole, and then reduce whatever you have by 2 inches or 1.5 inches, and then pass the elastic band through the casing that you've already created. So I've gone ahead to do that. I've also sewn on my elastic band on the wrist to form my gathers, and this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to turn my fabric over right sides facing each other, and then I'm going to close it up. I'm just going to go ahead and sew on a straight line. Remember, our top does not have a armhole, so we don't have to cut out any armhole for the sleeves. I'm just going to go ahead and sew from the beginning to the end. After doing that, you can go ahead and hem the base of your sleeves. So I've already done that. The next thing I'll do is to join my sleeves to my top. I'll bring in my top, and then I'm going to pin the armhole area of the sleeves. That is the joining that we have on the sleeve and the joining on the side of the top. I'll pin them together. I repeat the same thing for this other side, and then I'll go ahead and stitch the top and the sleeves together. After stitching, I'm going to go ahead and give it a good press. And yeah, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you have not. It's very important. Leave your questions in the comment section. I will see you guys in the next one.